Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Lifeline for Daily Living. Yes, this is the place where you can find the answers to your mental health, relationship, and family questions. I'm your host, Jim Hewitt. Glad you've tuned in today. I think you're going to find today's topic very interesting, so I hope you'll stay tuned because we'll be right back. All right. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Lifeline for Daily Living. Glad that you've joined me again this week. Valentine's Day is just a couple of days away. Can you believe that? I hope you're ready for it. I know I am. Got all my stuff together that I wanted to get my wife, and we're planning on doing something a little special on Valentine's Day night. I hope you have done the same for the person that is special in your life, whether it's a boyfriend or girlfriend or husband or wife. I hope you've planned something kind of special to just let them know how much you love them, how much you care about them. Last week, I started talking a little bit about Valentine's Day, maybe from a little bit different perspective about relationships and how to enhance that relationship. But today, I want to just kind of bring that thing to a close and talk about what I think is the essence of any kind of loving relationship, no matter what kind of relationship it is. I believe this is the essence. This is the, let me put it, this is the way, this is the glue. This is the glue that holds any kind of loving relationship together. What am I talking about? I'm talking about forgiveness. That's what I'm talking about today. Forgiveness is a hard thing. It is a difficult thing. Have you ever said, I will never, ever will I forgive that person for what they did or what they said? That what they did or what they said was so egregious that there's just no way on earth that I will ever forgive them. Well, what's happened with that in your life? If that's the way that you've adopted, your kind of life, what I tell people is unforgiveness will eat your lunch. It will eat you. Excuse me. It will eat your lunch. It doesn't matter. Sometimes what happens is we get into this unforgiveness mode, and it just permeates everything about our life. It just permeates everything, from relationships to our health, to our future. It just permeates everything. And so if you're a person who has difficulty forgiving, this is a podcast just for you. I want to talk about the essence of loving, which is forgiveness. I see those two things kind of just co-equal, being intertwined one with another. And I want to give you 7 tips today, 7 tips on how to forgive and what is necessary to forgive. So if there's someone in your house or someone at your job or someone that you're in a relationship with, your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, I want you to really pay attention to this particular podcast and what I'm getting ready to say here. 7 tips on how to forgive. Tip number 1, let go of anger. Unforgiveness and anger go hand in hand, glove and glove. They are just kind of co-equal, if you will. Let go of anger. Holding on to anger may be associated with an incident. It may be associated with a particular experience that you've had. It could have been yesterday. It could have been a year ago. A year ago. It could have been 10 years ago. It could have been 20 years ago. I've had couples in my office here that one of them has done something 10, 15 years ago, and still the person has not forgiven them for what they've done or what they've said. So let go of anger. Now, there are different kinds of anger that I want to kind of quickly go through here, because we kind of lump anger into one one big basket here, but anger has many different faces, if you will. There's chronic anger. Chronic anger is an ongoing feeling of resentment toward others. It's this just, you just can't stand the other person or the other people. Then there's volatile anger. We hear, in my business, we call it intermittent explosive disorder. It's just, boom, you go from 0 to 100 and you just blow up and then you calm right back down. There's judgmental anger that comes across in hypercritical statements. I can't believe that they did that. I can't believe that they said, I would never do that. I would never say that. And so you just kind of elevate yourself above other people. Then there's passive anger. We sometimes call this passive aggressiveness. This passive anger is suppressed anger that gets expressed indirectly. If I'm really angry at you, and I just may not talk to you for days or weeks. If I'm really angry at you, I may, you have asked me to do something. Well, I'm just going to kind of maybe get around to it when I get around to it. Passive aggressive kind of anger. And then there's retaliatory anger. This is, I'm going to get even. I'm going to get even with you. And I'm going to plot, then I'm going to plan, and just at the right moment, for maximum effect, I'm going to get you back. And then there's self-inflicted anger that is directed at ourselves. Sometimes that comes out in injurious behavior, cutting ourselves, bruising ourselves. It comes out in drinking, drugging, all of those kinds of things. And then there's constructive anger. Constructive anger is when we put that anger to positive use. We do some self-reflecting. Sometimes when there is something that someone has done wrong, they've broken the law, and our anger is at them because they've broken the law, or they've been involved in abusing others in some way. That is constructive anger. We find positive ways to deal with the anger that's inside. So the first tip here in forgiveness is letting go of anger. Now that's a process. Okay. Now many people say to me, well, the Bible teaches that Christians shouldn't get angry. No, it does not teach that. It says, don't let the sun go down on your wrath or go down on your anger. Jesus himself got angry. Anger is a God-given emotion. It's how we use that is negative or positive. So number one, let go of anger. Tip number two, don't be in forgiving people. Don't be stubborn. I'm just not going to talk to them. I'm not going to say anything to them. No. I'm right, they're wrong, and that's it. I'm not going to give. I'm not going to budge. If they make overtures to try to rectify the situation, there's no way on God's green earth I'm going to ever. That's stubbornness. Okay. Don't be stubborn. Learn how to compromise. You're not going to always get what you want, right? That hurt is something you decide to hang on to. So if there's hurt from just the recent past or even the distant past, you can you can begin to let go of that if you choose. So tip number two, don't be stubborn. Tip number three, stop thinking of yourself as a victim. Stop thinking of yourself as a victim. Now here's why I say that. Now, there are many instances in which you may be the victim of somebody else's cruelty, or somebody else's cruel words, or somebody else's passive-aggressive behavior. But don't think of yourself only as a victim. Because, watch this, the Bible says, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Thoughts precede behavior. Thoughts precede behavior. So if you continue to think of yourself as a victim, guess what? You're going to act as a victim. We refer to this as victim mentality. That I'm forever this way. I'm forever tainted. Everybody's going to do. Nobody treats me right. They're never going to treat me right. I'm just the poor me. I think there was a song by that title, Poor, Poor, Pitiful Me. That's that victim mentality. And so part of working on this forgiveness issue, which is the essence of loving, is to not think of yourself continually as a victim. Now, bad things happen, I get that. Things may happen, you may view that things happen to you. I want you to think about things happen for you. Even in a negative way, if something negative happens to you, to your experience, it can be used in a positive way if you allow it that way. So don't think of it in terms of things happen to me. That's victim mentality. But things happen for me so that I can learn, so that I can grow, so that I can mature. So stop thinking of yourself as a victim. Tip number 4. Focus on the future. Focus on the future. You've heard me say this multiple times in other podcasts. There's no way that you can continue to drive forward if you're looking in the rearview mirror. It's just not going to happen, right? You're going to crash. There's going to be injuries. All kinds of things are going to happen. And so focus on the future. Now, the future, quite honestly, the future may include not being a part of that other person's life. I get that. You may have forgiven them and you're working on forgiveness, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be tied to them continuously and continually be victimized by them, be treated badly by them, be verbally or physically abused by them. No. What I'm talking about is looking toward the future. That somebody has done something or said something that is egregious to you. What are you going to do? Hang on to that? Is that what you're going to do? Well, if you continue to hang on to that, then you're not really looking toward the future. Now, the future may mean that you and that individual, that you come together and you reconcile and you forgive each other and you love each other, you grow anew and afresh, that relationship blossoms again. It also may mean that that person is no longer a part of your life. Just because they're no longer a part of your life does not mean that you haven't forgiven them. You see that? I want you to get that. Just because you have forgiven them doesn't mean that you're going to continue to be in a relationship with them. Sometimes it's better to not be in a relationship with them. That doesn't mean you don't forgive them. It just means that there are consequences to those kinds of negative behaviors. And so forgiveness can bring about a fresh start. If here's what we're going to do. You have done something egregious to hurt me. And so we're going to talk it through. We're going to come to some kind of consensus about it, and then we're going to begin to move forward. Are we going to forget about that? No, that's not what forgiveness is about. It's not forgive and forget. There's no internal mechanism in our brain that we can extract that memory. It just doesn't happen. But what I can do is focus on where are we going to go together, or where am I going to go in my future, in putting one foot in front of the other, what's my future look like? And so a fourth tip here with regard to this essence of loving, which is forgiveness, and that is focus on the future. And that means not holding that whatever happened, not holding that over their head for the rest of their lives. That means letting go of that and moving toward the future. Tip number 5, which I think goes right along with what I just mentioned, and that is learning to trust again, or relearning trust. That's the number one question that I get with couples here is how can I learn to trust them? How can I learn to trust him? How can I learn to trust her? They've broken our marriage vows. They've gone outside our marriage. They've had an affair. How can I ever trust them again? Or they've been verbally abusive to me in the past. How can I ever learn to trust them again? Well, you can. You can. Learning to trust is a process. And I see trust and forgiveness go hand in hand. Complete forgiveness means that you need to learn to relearn to trust them, relearn to trust that individual that caused you the harm in the first place. listen carefully to not so much how they say, I'm sorry, but the motivation behind that. The message of the person, I'm really sorry for what I did or what I didn't do, what I said or what I didn't say. I'm really sorry for that. And sometimes we, be very honest, we get into this thing of wanting to extract our pound of flesh. Before I can forgive them, before I can trust them again, I need to extract that pound of flesh from them, and I need to make them pay. I need to make them beg. I need to make them get on their knees and grovel and beg for my forgiveness. No. That's never going to work. Well, I demand an apology. Really? Well, you can demand all you want. Well, they need to say that they're sorry before I'll forgive them. Well, okay, so who's in control of that, them or you? See, some people have problems communicating, and so they may not say with all flowery words that you kind of get in a card or a Hallmark card, something like that. But at least they're making the effort. They may stumble, they may fumble around a little bit, but at least they're making the effort to try to reconcile and ask for your forgiveness. And so many people have difficulty communicating, and so you may be one of those people that has that difficulty communicating. Say it the best that you can. I suggest that you sit down and you kind of write it through for a little bit, and to get your thoughts together, and then approach that person with regard to forgiveness. Tip number 6 is to be reasonable when you're thinking about forgiveness, which is the essence of love. Be reasonable in your expectations of other people. I believe, and it's just me now, I believe that we as believers, we as Christians, we have such high expectations of other people, particularly other believers. We have such high expectations of them that they should be perfect because they're believers. No, it's not that way. We are all broken. We're all frail creatures of dust. We are all prone to sin. What is it that Paul says? For all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. And so sometimes what happens is where we get into this unforgiveness thing is we have such high expectations that we expect that the people that we love, the people that we care for, it doesn't matter whether it's your husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, co-worker, or fellow church member, that we have high expectations that they should do everything perfectly, they should say everything perfectly, they should act perfectly at all times. Well, what would it be like if somebody expected that of you? There's no way you could keep that, right? There's no way that you can ever measure up to that, right? There's just no way. And so if you don't want people having those expectations of you, be careful of having those kind of expectations of others as well. And so be reasonable in your expectations of others. And then finally, number 7, and I think this, excuse me, this is the heart of it all, and that is examine your own heart. Examine your own heart. Is your behavior or offhanded comments, are they contributing to the problems that you're having with this other person? Maybe your spouse, maybe your boyfriend, girlfriend, coworker. Look at yourself. Look at your own behavior. See, we oftentimes, when we're talking about this forgiveness thing, well, they've done that to me. They've done that. They need to be asking for forgiveness from me. Really? Well, examine your own heart. Look at your own life. What is there that you may be contributing to the problem? You may be contributing to the discontent. What part do you play in that? That's hard to look at, particularly when we're talking about this whole area of forgiveness. Sometimes we need to think before we speak. Sometimes, and then, if we're that kind of person that we just speak what's on our mind, well, I just kind of lay it out there. If they don't like it, well, tough. Well, that may be what gets you into problems with other people. See that? And so I would ask you to examine your own heart. Take a look inside. Do an honest inventory of how you may be contributing to the problems that are going on between you and whoever the other person is. Sometimes we have to stop, in order to affect change in a relationship, we have to stop doing what we are doing in a negative way and start doing. See, the only person that you can control is yourself. This thing of, well, I can't help it. No, that's a fallacy. That's a myth. You can help it. And so examine your own self. Take an internal inventory and look honestly at yourself, objectively, if at all possible. Look at what you may be doing that contributes to the problems that you're having with other people. Well, let me just kind of sum things up here as we close out today. I think forgiveness is perhaps the most emotional and psychologically hard experiences that we'll ever have. It's difficult because we have to peel away and deal with our own feelings in regards to that other person. It involves feelings of anger. It involves resentment, revenge, hurt, hostility, sadness, bitterness, retaliation, retribution. It involves all of that stuff. That's what makes it hard. That's what makes it difficult. But I guarantee you, if you'll kind of look at the steps that I've outlined today, that forgiveness is a possibility. Other people forgiving you and you forgiving other people. See, forgiveness is not about the other person. It's really not. It is about you. Forgiveness is about you. It's about you letting that other person go in whatever the infraction was. So really, when you think about it, with Valentine's Day and all of our focus on loving and, and hearts and romantic kind of themes, the essence of loving somebody is the willingness to forgive them. Doesn't take away the consequences of what they did, but it does mean that you have a forgiving heart, a forgiving spirit with regard to that person. Many of you that I'm talking to today have an unforgiving spirit. Someone has done something to you, someone has said something to you, someone has maligned you in some way, somebody has talked about you, and yet you're the one who is being eaten up by unforgiveness. You cannot say on one hand, I love you, and on the other hand, not forgive them. Let me say that again. You cannot on one hand say, I love you, and on the other hand, have unforgiveness, refusing to forgive them. Forgiveness and love go hand in hand. And so with Valentine's Day just a couple of days away, I want you to rethink this whole idea of love. That it's not just this ushy, gushy, mushy Hallmark card kind of thing. It is about forgiveness. It's about loving that other person in a forgiving way. I'm reminded of the words of Jesus as he was hanging on the cross. There he was, falsely accused, beaten, savagely beaten, and hung upon the cross. And he looks down at the people from the cross and says, Father, forgive them, because they don't even know what they're doing. How can we do less than that? If we expect that God were to forgive us of all of our sins and trespasses, then how much more are we to forgive those who trespass against us? This is what it's all about. It's about asking for forgiveness, and it's about receiving forgiveness as well. I hope these tips have been helpful to you today as you think about forgiveness as being the essence of loving. Well, I want to thank you for tuning in to this episode of Lifeline for Daily Living. If something that I've said today has raised some questions or concerns about unforgiveness or forgiveness, I'd love to talk to you about it. There's 3 ways now that you can contact me. Number 1 is with my phone. Just call my phone here, and that is 573-732-4575. Again, that's 573-732-4575. You can also email me. My email address is lifelineonline@hotmail.com. Again, that's all one word now, lifelineonline@hotmail.com. The 3rd way you can contact me is if you're watching this on Facebook, you can private message me and give me your contact information, and I promise you I will get right back to you. If you ask a question or you want to talk about something, there's a question you have, private message me. I will get back to you. I'm so glad that you tuned in today, and I'll see you right back here next week on Lifeline for Daily Living.